Welcome to the Freedom Club Podcast, where we discover the fight for freedom, fulfillment, passion, and purpose. Your host is Kurt Mercadante, Gallup certified strengths coach, an agency founder who is dedicated to coaching individuals seeking to level up their life and their businesses. The Freedom Club is about unlocking your talents, turning them into strengths, and crushing your objectives. You can learn more at kurtmercadante.com. Welcome to the Freedom Club.
Happy Freedom Friday. This is the Freedom Club Podcast. I am your host, Kurt Mercadante. And before we get going today, before you shut down for the day, before you shut down for the weekend, I urge you, I invite you, I prod you, please head over to iTunes, Google Play, wherever you're listening to this podcast, and leave us a positive rating and review. If you like what you hear today and this is your first time listening, if you like what you've heard our 100+ previous episodes, I would so much appreciate it if you would pay us back by leaving a positive rating and review. It helps us so much to expand our message of freedom and fulfillment around the globe, and we do have listeners all across this third rock from the sun. So I want to thank you so much. I hope you have had a week filled with freedom and abundance, and I wish you a weekend filled with freedom and abundance, in which you are present with yourself, with your family, and with your friends. And on today's podcast, I share a little excerpt from a speech I gave last week to LinkedIn Local Charleston. Now, if you're not familiar with the LinkedIn Local movement, first of all, if you're not on LinkedIn, what the hell are you doing? If you are on LinkedIn, go and search the hashtag LinkedIn Local and LinkedIn Local CHS, and you'll see this global movement to create local events where people connect and learn about the humans behind the LinkedIn profiles. There are events around the globe. We have done 2 this year here in Charleston. The first one, 50 people, we sold out in 36 hours. The second one, we sold out 100 people. And on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, wherever you follow me, I'm going to be sharing videos of that incredible event. And today, I share an excerpt of my speech. Now, my speech was about the power of LinkedIn storytelling. And the excerpt you're going to hear today can be summed up like this. We all have a story to tell. We shouldn't be afraid of telling our story. We shouldn't be ashamed of telling our story. Everyone's got a story, and no one's story is better or worse than the other. And if you have a story to tell, if you've gone through a challenge, if you've gone through something, I guarantee there are millions of other people out there who have gone through the same thing and with whom your story will resonate. And so I hope the story I tell here in this excerpt today, shared with you here on the Freedom Club Podcast, resonates with you. And by the way, if you need help telling your story, if you're searching for a life of freedom and fulfillment, my website is kurtmercadante.com. I urge you to visit it. Sign up for an upcoming webinar. Sign up to speak with me, because my mission in life is to help you. And without further ado, here is today's episode of the Freedom Club Podcast, in which I share an excerpt from last week's sold out LinkedIn Local Charleston event, in which I talk about the power of telling your story.
So I want to start off with a story from a little under 10 years ago. And I remember we lived in Illinois at the time, and I was sitting on the edge of my bed, and the lights were off in the bedroom. And I had my arms across my chest, and I was rocking back and forth, and I didn't really kind of know what was going on. And my wife peeked her head in because she was worried about me. And we had 2 kids at the time, now we have 4. And the kids were playing. They weren't being bad or anything. They were just being the kids. And I couldn't stand the sound of their voices. And my wife peeked her head in, and I said, you got to get the kids away. You got to get them away. And I didn't know what was happening. I sort of knew what was happening, but I didn't want to admit it. And it wasn't the first occasion of this happening. I had run a month before that a half marathon, and a week later I tried to run a half mile. My left arm went numb. I couldn't feel my fingers. So I went to the doctor. He prescribed some things, prescribed some drugs, urged me to change my diet. I did that, and it kind of went away for a little bit. And I was in denial for a while. I was having anxiety attacks. And I was raised to think of myself as the breadwinner, to put the responsibility on my shoulders to do that. And so I felt guilty. I had scaled a PR and ad agency that was very profitable, and so I felt guilty. What the hell did I have to complain about? And so I started making some changes. A couple years later, in 2012, my father passed away. And so we were at his wake, and I remember these grown men, 80-year-old men, stood up bawling, tears in their eyes. And so my dad had a really cool career. He worked on the space program, designed fighter jets. He worked on the team, before they were here, that designed all the electronic switches on the Boeing 777. And these men stood up bawling, crying. Not a single person at the wake mentioned a damn thing my dad ever did in his career. It was all about what he did as a husband, as a father, volunteering in the community, in their church, reading audiobooks for the blind. And it was like someone slapped me in the face, and I asked myself, what the hell am I doing? And my dad had set the example for me, and I wasn't living up to that example. So that started a journey for fulfillment. At the same time, I had built a successful company. People came to me to coach them on the side. And so I started this really cool side hustle. And I thought maybe someday, way out in the future, I'll shut down my agency and I'll do that. But I had the golden handcuffs, right? And so I kept going and going and going. Fear kept me back. And I remember this one Tuesday morning, and I woke up, and it was just like any other work day, except for the fact that it was a vacation day. It was Thanksgiving week, and all my clients knew that I was on vacation, but that didn't stop them from calling, emailing. Can you jump on a phone call? Can you send us this? Can you send us that? And the following week, I was supposed to fly up to have a 6-hour meeting from hell with this client. In the same meeting the year before, I remember it was Monday morning at 8:30 in Washington, D.C. I had flown up Sunday night. It was about 12 degrees out. And the client looked at us, it was their boss there, and I was supposed to present. She said, Kurt, I'm sorry. We're going to sit here for the next hour and figure out what the hell is wrong with you all people. You're all low energy. So she sat and she did that for the next hour, and I vowed I would never go back to that meeting again. But over the course of the next year, the fear came back, the comfort zone, right? And so you fall back into it. But something snapped in me that Tuesday morning. And I remember I went up to my wife, and I was scared shitless. What's she going to say? And I said, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. And she looked me in the eye, and she said, it's about time. And I shut down my agency overnight at peak revenue, and I dove into the deep end of coaching full time. And it's been an incredible ride, fueled a lot by LinkedIn. And the reason I tell you that story is this, and I'm going to go back to that. So I have a good friend that I met on LinkedIn. His name's Marcus Aurelius Anderson. Great name, right? So Marcus, when his uncle died, his favorite uncle, who had served in the U.S. Army, Marcus wanted to honor him. So Marcus went and got an age waiver, went to the U.S. Army, started training, was kicking butt, went to the mountains of upstate New York and literally broke his back. Was paralyzed for a year. He died once or twice on the operating table. And Marcus now, after he went through all of that, is in martial arts, he's working out, and he's a mindset coach. And I interviewed him for my podcast, and he said a quote that will stick with me always, and that is, adversity is not a competition. And the reason I bring that up is because each and every one of you has a story, none better, none worse than the other. And I just told the story about myself that I was so afraid to tell for so long out of feeling of guilt or shame. It's no better or no worse. I personally think Marcus's story is crazy, is incredible, but that doesn't stop me from telling my story.